I once shot an arrow through the bride's red veil at Yuchi-Wei's wedding, killing her on the spot, only because that woman was a spy. Afterward, Yuchi-Wei was so grateful he wept and promoted me to his personal lieutenant. And because of that, he discovered my secret of disguising myself as a man. 5 years later, on the night of our wedding, he walked in holding an urn of ashes he had treasured for years. I want you to taste the deepest pain at your happiest moment, just as I did back then. Only then did I realize he had deeply loved the female spy, unchanged throughout his life. He stabbed out both my eyes, crippled both my hands, so I could never shoot an arrow again. Amid the blood filling my vision, I set the house ablaze, taking him down with me. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of Yuchi-Wei's wedding. My lord, could the one who just stepped out of the bridal sedan be that female spy? I stopped my subordinate with an expressionless face. We're only here today to offer congratulations. No talk of official business. Qifeng was somewhat taken aback upon hearing my words. My lord, we chased her all the way here. She clearly vanished when we ran into the wedding procession, so it is very likely. Impossible. I stood across the street, gazing at the lintel of the Yuchi residence. After all, she is the bride General Yuchi is taking into his home. How could she possibly be a female spy? Qifeng nodded pensively. She'd have to be insane to dare get into the general's bridal sedan. Once she is discovered, she'll only die more miserably. Exactly. In my past life, I was too eager to catch the thief, and never even thought about it. How would an ordinary female thief dare to rashly barge into Yuchi-Wei's bridal sedan? If discovered by Yuchi-Wei, it would certainly mean death. I thought she was just panicking and fleeing blindly, so I followed her into the Yuchi residence, until I noticed a drop of blood dripping from the bride's fingertip. The evidence was conclusive. I drew my bow and shot her dead on the spot. That arrow pierced through the bride's skull, through the bright red wedding veil, and pinned her firmly to the wall behind, just revealing the woman's face. That was not the bride he was supposed to marry today. Yuchi-Wei was utterly shocked. At the time, I thought his shock was from not knowing, but it wasn't until the day I died that I learned he knew that woman. No, not just knew, he deeply loved her. It is just that he was too good at pretending. After I shot and killed his bride, he knelt before me in front of all the guests, thanking me for killing the spy in time, lest he be used by the enemy. His earnest vows and tearful gratitude made everyone believe he had nothing to do with the female spy. Afterwards, he publicly burned the bride's body and promoted me above my rank to be his personal deputy general. And because of this, not long after, he discovered my secret of disguising as a man, and thus began an ill-fated affair. But I never imagined until my death that just because I was a woman, he would conclude that the arrow I shot back then was because I was jealous of that woman, and that is why I killed her in open court. How utterly ridiculous and arrogant. On our wedding night, Yuchi-Wei blinded my eyes and crippled my hands. From now on, I want you to reflect on your sins in hell. Before my vision was completely overtaken by blood, I grabbed the brightly burning wedding candle and threw it into the bed curtains, then pressed my body firmly against the door. Yuchi-Wei, I've done nothing wrong, and I don't love you. Let's die together. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to this moment. Yuchi-Wei, dressed in red, hurriedly stepped over the threshold and accidentally stumbled. But when he saw the bride stepping out of the bridal sedan, his eyes revealed endless tenderness. I was slightly surprised. In my previous life, he didn't seem this excited. Could it be that he also experienced rebirth? Yuchi-Wei carefully took the bride's hand and looked around until he spotted me across the long street. He held the woman in his arms even tighter, summoned a guard and whispered a few words, then led his new bride into the manor. Before entering, he looked back at me, his gaze complex. My lord, what if that bride really is a spy? Shouldn't we go in and take a look? I nodded. Of course we need to stay vigilant. Of course I am going in to watch the show. Besides, I also need to personally confirm whether Yuchi-Wei has also experienced rebirth. I didn't expect to be stopped at the entrance. The general said you are not allowed inside today. Qifeng said incredulously. Our lord was also invited to the general's wedding banquet. Why won't you let us in? The guard looked troubled. We're just following orders. This time I was certain Wei had also undergone rebirth. He was afraid I would enter the mansion again and shoot his beloved Luo Qian. Then forget it. Just as I was about to leave, two distinguished guests arrived, the Crown Prince and Prince Qi. These two princes each had their own backing at court, both holding high positions and great power. On such a joyous day for Yuqi, why are you turning away those who came to offer congratulations? The Crown Prince was kind and amiable, and also my superior. I hurriedly paid my respects. Prince Qi paused briefly as he passed by my side. I heard that Lord Fu was supposed to be catching someone today. Reporting to Your Highness, the person, I lost track of them. Prince Qi glanced at me and said with an inscrutable tone, "You lost track of someone, yet you still have the mind to come offer congratulations." I didn't dare tell the truth, and could only bow my head in admission. Your Highness's reprimand is justified. Let's go. The Crown Prince came to my rescue. With the order from the important figure, I brought Qi Feng into the mansion. Yuqi Wei was still leading the bride through the wedding ceremony and didn't know I had already entered. And this time, the blood droplets seeping from the bride's fingertips were quietly wiped away by Yuqi Wei, so no one noticed anything unusual. I stood in the crowd, lost in thought. In my previous life, I killed Luo Qian too easily, which instead allowed Yuqi Wei to clear himself of the suspicion of colluding with spies. This time, I must convict him, and it has to be the kind that is irrefutable, set in stone. At tonight's wedding, besides the 3 bows before the hall, Yuqi Wei also personally received the wedding gifts from the 2 highnesses alongside the bride. Qi Feng was at my side. My lord, there is a smell of blood on the bride. Luo Qian had suffered a severe knife wound when she escaped from us, and right now she was barely standing with people around her forcibly supporting her. Let me try. When the two turned around, I grabbed a pebble and threw it at the back of Luo Qian's knee. The bride's figure swayed, and she fell to her knees. The wedding veil slid to the side with the momentum, about to reveal her true face. Yuqi Wei's originally betrothed, fiancée was the daughter of the vice minister of the secretariat, as long as the wedding veil no longer concealed her. The dowry maids would surely discover their mistress had been replaced. But just as her true face was about to be revealed, Yuqi Wei urgently embraced her, catching the wedding veil with one hand. The woman also panicked and buried herself in his arms. No one could see her face. Yuqi Wei placed the wedding veil back on before steadily helping her up. But people were already murmuring, "Do you guys smell blood? Seems like there really is a bit." The bride nervously gripped Yuqi Wei's hand tightly. Yuqi Wei noticed the pebbles on the ground. Frowning for a moment, soon, he locked onto me in the crowd. Lord Fu Yao specializes in criminal punishment. I am afraid it is the stench of blood on you. He made no effort to hide his attitude. Didn't I forbid you from coming today? Qi Feng grew angry upon hearing this. This is clearly, but I stopped Qi Feng and explained gently to my colleagues. Perhaps I've been tainted with blood, which isn't very auspicious. I'll just borrow a cup of the general's wedding wine to wash away my dust. Yuqi Wei tugged at the corner of his lips. Quite mockingly, he didn't realize I had returned through rebirth, perhaps still thinking I was smitten with him. But what he didn't know was that what I wanted was exactly for him to shield Luo Qian in public. The more he shielded her, the more miserable his death would be when the spy's identity was exposed. Now it seemed like he had protected the fake bride, but he had already boarded the same pirate ship. The newlyweds were sent to the bridal chamber, while Qi Feng and I headed to our seats. My lord, that bride is quite suspicious. We should strike first. I know, I calmed Qi Feng. But you also saw just now, General Yuqi is quite protective of her. It is hard to say. He grasped my unfinished words. Could Yuqi Wei be the person behind her? Yuqi Wei was currently the most imperially favored general. If he were committing treason and colluding with the enemy, that would be no small matter. This matter shouldn't cause a commotion. We need to find someone first. Feng was stunned. Now, how could we possibly make it in time? I smiled mysteriously. We'll make it. Walking to the rockery, a maidservant happened to be passing by on the bridge. I waved my hand and called her over. Do you know where the bridal sedan from earlier is parked? The maidservant wasn't easy to fool. What does my lord want with the bridal sedan? I heard the red silk on top of the bridal sedan is very auspicious. I want to ask for a piece. I slipped a silver ingot into her palm. The maidservant thought about it. There was indeed such a custom, and led the way. In the empty backyard, the elaborate and exquisite bridal sedan sat there all alone, unattended. Indeed, there was a manservant holding a torch soaked in oil, about to set the bridal sedan on fire. "What do you think you are doing?" Qifeng shouted, flew forward, and kicked him unconscious. The maidservant was also flustered. Heavens, who is he? Why aren't the sedan bearers here guarding it? I need to go. Her voice stopped abruptly. It was I who knocked her out. Qifeng was climbing on top of the bridal sedan, pulling off a red silk. Hearing the maidservant fall to the ground, he looked back at me. "What are you doing?" I stared at him blankly. "What are you doing? Isn't this what you wanted?" He was puzzled. I shook my head helplessly, climbed into the bridal sedan, and opened the lid of the seat. Inside, a woman was curled up, her face tear-stained like pear blossoms in the rain. She was wearing only her undergarments, cloth stuffed in her mouth, her hands and feet bound with sashes. She was the daughter of the Zhongshu Shilong, Shu Niancy. She was supposed to be today's bride. "Miss Shu, you've been wronged. In my previous life, I only found out about this later. Shu Niancy had been happily on her way to her wedding, but when she stopped midway at the matchmaker god temple to pray and rest, a female thief climbed through the window and struck her mute acupoint. She also tore off her bridal veil, stripped off her clothes, and took her place as the bride. She was locked in the pitch, dark hidden compartment of the bridal sedan, listening as her husband to be took away that fake bride. Later, it wasn't until after Luo Qian died that we found a charred corpse in the remains of the bridal sedan in the backyard. And the servant who set the fire was just paid to do it, not knowing there was someone inside. Thank you, Lord Fu, for saving me before the wedding night begins. I must go expose that fake bride. I stopped her. Miss Shu, I tracked her all the way here, just now in the hall. I probed multiple times and almost lifted that woman's veil. But I didn't expect what? Qifeng read my expression. Didn't expect General Yuqi to publicly pull her into his arms in front of everyone, shielding her completely, and even personally picked up the veil. Shu Niancy was momentarily stunned. I seized the moment to plug the hole. Pardon my boldness. But has General Yuqi ever seen what you look like? Shu Niancy's face turned pale, her nails digging into her palms, her voice trembling. He has seen me. In that case, Yuqi, Wei, and that female thief are very likely accomplices. Shu Niancy now understood who I was suspecting. Lord Fu, isn't it enough that you've caught that woman? Miss Shu, there is something you don't know. That woman is no ordinary thief. She stole the military defense maps of the capital region. Yuqi Wei is also a first-rank general. This concerns the grave crime of treason, so I must deliberate carefully. Miss Shu, if Yuqi Wei's treason turns out to be true, and you don't cut ties with him today, your entire family will be implicated and executed in the future. In that instant, Shu Niancy didn't even dare to let her tears flow. Would he really? I pulled her out of the bridal sedan and made her look at the servant lying on the ground. If we hadn't arrived in time, you probably would have been burned alive. Shu Niancy couldn't even stand steady anymore. I had Kaifeng deal with the servant and the maid, then had Shu Niancy change into the maid's clothes. You don't need to worry about wronging him. I'll take you there right now to see for yourself what his relationship with that female spy really is. Kaifeng and I, along with a real bride disguised as a maid, quietly made our way toward the main courtyard. When we got near the bridal chamber, Qifeng lured away the maid guarding the door, and Shu Niancy took her place without anyone noticing. Stand here quietly, don't look up. I pushed open the door and entered. Inside the bridal chamber, the two dowry maids from the Shu family had already been knocked unconscious on the ground. Lo Qian was tending to her wounds. Who? She turned and saw it was me, and actually let out a sigh of relief. I was wondering who it could be. Turns out it is Lord Fu, who has been chasing me all day. Luo Qian stood up, spread her arms, and tugged at her lips. Fu Yao, now that I have the general's manners protection, what can you do to me? I gazed at her quietly. In my past life, I only met her once, when I killed her. She was naive enough to think I wouldn't dare kill someone in the general's manner. You impersonated Shuniansi to marry him. Aren't you afraid Yuchi Wei will kill you? Luo Qian showed no fear at all. You don't know. He and I are childhood sweethearts. No matter what I do, he won't hold it against me, let alone something trivial like this. Trivial? I let out a cold laugh. Stealing the capital's military defense map is also trivial. Lu Sa Jian didn't admit it. I am certain the military map is still on you. I pressed forward step by step, grabbed her by the collar, and just as I was about to search her, Luo Qian suddenly fell backward, crashing heavily onto the vanity table. Fu Yao, why are you here? The long sword's cold blade like frost thrust past my ear, cutting off a strand of hair. I had no choice but to let go of her, turning around to confront Yuchi Wei. Luo Qian immediately ran behind him. Yuchi Wei glared at me furiously. Fu Yao, you actually dare to make moves against Qian again and again on my territory. Isn't that too willful? I stared at him, my tone sarcastic. Willful, Yuchi Wei. Is this Qian you speak of, the bride you are supposed to marry tonight? Yuchi Wei's expression faltered slightly, as if he knew he was in the wrong. Qian and I are old friends. If you hadn't relentlessly pursued her, would she have been forced to seek my help? I am merely using the wedding to temporarily shelter her, and I believe Niancy will understand. She is not like you, ignorant of human feelings. Understand. Have you even thought about where Shu Niancy is right now? Have you worried whether she is safe at this moment? Yuchi Wei remained rather calm. I know. She is in the bridal sedan. After tonight passes, I'll personally go fetch her out, and it'll be as if I searched for her the entire night. In the dim, unclear night, that slender figure by the door was trembling. I had to make Shu Niancy hear it with her own ears. Only then could she give up on him and become my best witness. Yuchi Wei, Miss Su is a noble lady of high status. Are you really going to make her spend her wedding night curled up in the hidden compartment of a bridal sedan, all for the sake of a female thief? Yuchi Wei avoided my gaze, his expression still unchanged. A temporary measure, done only out of necessity. Luo Qian seized the opportunity to interject. Exactly, so what if she is a noble young lady? She is only inconvenienced for one night, yet she can save my life. Isn't this exactly what accumulating merit and doing good deeds is about? Just then, a guard came to report. General, this is bad. The bridal sedan sent by the Shu family has caught fire. Yuchi Wei abruptly turned around, his grip on his sword unsteady, his face deathly pale. What did you say? Naturally, it was my doing. To avoid alerting the enemy before leaving, I still had Qifeng set that fire. Yuchi Wei asked urgently, how is the fire? Was anything found? No one was around. By the time it was discovered, it had already mostly burned down. Right now, they're putting it out. Mostly burned down. In other words, if Shu Niancy was still in the bridal sedan, she would already be a corpse. He stared fixedly at Luo Qian. Was it you? Luo Qian's face turned pale. I don't know. Meeting Yuchi Wei's scrutinizing gaze, she kept stepping backward. It really wasn't me. Afraid of being suspected by Yuchi Wei, she casually pointed at me. It is her. It must be her. I was unhurried, about to head out the door. Who did it? We'll find out with a simple investigation after all. Neither the Crown Prince nor Prince Qi ever left their seats. But Lu Qian ran over to block me, her expression tense. General, you can't let her go out. She thought there was still a corpse in the bridal sedan, which was why she panicked and lost her composure. Yuchi Wei would surely conclude that she was the one who set the fire. His expression changed as expected. He grabbed Lu Qian and pulled her in front of him, saying through gritted teeth, Shu Niancy had no grudge against you. Why did you insist on killing her? Lu Qian shook her head, biting her lower lip tightly, tears streaming down her face. But things have already come to this. Are you really going to send me to my death for her sake? Wei just tilted his head back, let out a long sigh, then suddenly calmed down and ordered the guards. No need to put out the fire. Don't alert anyone. Dispose of the bridal sedan cleanly. I could hardly believe my ears. Wei, that is a human life. Fu Yao, the dead cannot come back to life. As long as you let Qinqian go tonight, I am willing to promise you one thing. I sneered coldly. What could you possibly promise me? He stared at me for a moment, then coldly turned his head away. I know you are a woman disguised as a man. The reason you are so fixated on Chen is nothing but... His voice paused as if it was hard to say. Nothing but for my sake. He had made up his mind. I am willing to promise to marry you afterwards. For a moment. Sudden silence. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. What are you laughing at? His face suddenly darkened. I am laughing. You might not even survive tonight, yet you are still thinking about possibly marrying me. Before the words had fallen, the sound of roof tiles shattering suddenly came from outside the window. Wei immediately went out the door, only catching a glimpse of a figure flashing across the rooftop. Who is there? I followed out and recognized at a glance. It was Qi Feng, probably from suddenly hearing that I was a woman. He accidentally knocked loose a tile from the roof. Wei signaled the guards with his eyes, telling them to follow and check. While returning to the room, he suddenly stopped in his tracks, turned his head, and stared at the person by the door. Are you from the Shu household? Shu Nancy's whole body tensed up. She buried her head even lower and gave a slight nod. But Wei stood motionless in place, watching her with a deep gaze. Raise your head. Shu Nancy slowly raised her head, revealing a deathly pale face, her eyes filled with hatred. It is me, I am still alive. The moment Wei saw clearly. He froze completely. How are you here? He almost instantly thought of me. It is you've been scheming behind the scenes. I stood behind Shu Nancy. Of course it is me. If not for me, she'd already be dead. You should thank me. Shu Nancy raised her hand high and delivered a slap. Wei, our marriage was bestowed by His Majesty's golden words. Yet you use this to harbor a fugitive. I will definitely tell my father and bring this before the court. Let's see how you can bear the consequences. She finished speaking word by word, then turned and ran out of the courtyard. Wei couldn't bother with me and immediately chased after her, but before he could take more than a few steps, a flash of silver light shot past his side, catching up to Shu Nancy's figure ascending the bridge. It was a throwing knife, stabbing right into her back. Her silhouette suddenly stopped on the bridge. Then she fell headfirst into the water. But at that very moment, Qi Feng arrived hurriedly with the crown prince and others, just in time to witness the scene of Shu Nancy being struck by the knife and falling into the water. Nianer, even though she had changed into a maidservant's attire, Minister Shu still recognized his own daughter. The crown prince walked at the forefront, leaped into the water, fished her out, and summoned a physician. Wei had already stopped in his tracks, turning back to look at Lu Qian, his gaze full of shock. She leaned crookedly against the doorframe, looking as frail as if a breeze could knock her over, not at all like someone who had just committed violence. I had no other choice, so I wanted to kill her to silence her. Wei felt somewhat dazed. The crown prince and Minister Shu were walking menacingly toward the bridal chamber, while the crown prince's guards surged in with weapons, surrounding the courtyard from all sides. Wei, she is just a fugitive who committed violence in public. You can't protect her anymore. Fu Yao, you act ruthlessly and will stop at nothing, but I will never let you hurt Qinqian again. Unexpectedly, counting both lifetimes together, Wei did the most responsible thing he'd ever done. He actually knelt down in public and took on the crime of assault in Lu Chen's place. Chen impersonating the bride was just her being a bit willful. I didn't expect Nancy would argue with us, and in a moment of impulse I just assumed he had gone mad and turned to report to the crown prince. Your Highness, Wei killed someone on his wedding night. This is a capital offense, and he should be executed. But unexpectedly, I was interrupted by that man. Lord Fu, according to our dynasty's laws. Killing someone is a grave crime, but killing one's wife is not. I was momentarily stunned. What? Yuchi-Wei raised his head to look at me, his voice laced with malice. Besides, Shuniansi isn't even dead yet. It is merely the crime of accidentally injuring one's wife. So this was what he had been scheming. Vice Minister Shu was already furious beyond control and kicked him in the shoulder. Beast. The Crown Prince's expression was also grim. Yuchi-Wei, your crimes will be determined by the proper authorities. For now, you will be taken to prison to await trial. Yuchi-Wei was roughly pressed to the ground by the guards. I hadn't forgotten about Lucian either. Your Highness, if attempted murder is not enough to convict him, I have another crime of General Yushi's here. I cast an indifferent glance at the people below. Then, I slowly raised my hand and pointed at Luo Qian. This woman is a spy who stole military secrets. Yuchi-Wei concealed her whereabouts. This is a grave crime of treason. Luo Qian denied it. I only impersonated the bride. I am not some spy. Do you have any evidence? Of course I had evidence. The capital military defense map is on your person. I remembered, in my past life after she died, I had found that capital military defense map on her body. The Crown Prince immediately sent people to search her entire body. I thought it was a sure thing, but they came up with nothing. Luo Qian walked out from behind the screen, tying her sash as she walked, looking at me with a half smile. Well? My heart skipped a beat. I suddenly realized something and couldn't help but whirl around to look at the people around me. Every familiar face instantly felt like a stranger's. The reason Luo Qian dared to impersonate the bride probably wasn't just because Yuchi-Wei was a rare idiot. There was an even more plausible possibility. Her mastermind was among today's banquet guests. That is why she risked coming here, to transfer the military defense map as quickly as possible. In my past life, I had simply killed her too early, so the conspiracy never came to fruition. But in this life, she had already sent the military defense map out. Things having come to this, I had no choice but to take a hard stance. Your Highness the Crown Prince, this subject fears her accomplice is among the guests. The military defense map may not have been transferred yet. I request we immediately seal the manor and conduct a search. Hearing this, Yuchi-Wei began to struggle. Your Highness, the Crown Prince, Fu Yao has no evidence, and besides, there is something you all don't know. She is a woman and has no right to serve as an official. He exposed my identity in front of everyone. What is more, Lu Qian took advantage of my distraction, suddenly walked behind me, and pulled out my hairpin. Everyone present was shocked. All eyes pierced me like needles, a mix of shock, disdain, and horror. I didn't gather my hair, just let it fall loose like that, and under everyone's watchful eyes knelt straight down on the ground. Your Highness, let's stick to the matter at hand. The military defense map should be the top priority right now. As for my identity, I will accept whatever punishment I deserve. The Crown Prince looked at me for a moment, then nodded. We'll do as you say first. Search the manor. With just that one sentence, the entire atmosphere of the general's manor changed completely. Just moments ago, it was all festive, but in the blink of an eye, everyone feared for themselves. The corridors were filled with soldiers. Every room was opened and searched, and everyone had to be questioned. But strangely enough, despite such a thorough search, nothing was found. The Crown Prince listened to his subordinate's report, then turned his gaze to me. Fu Yao, do you have anything else to say? I stood in place, my gaze sweeping over the bewildered faces, my mind racing. In my previous life, after Lu Qian's death, although Yuchi-Wei wasn't convicted, he was still reprimanded. Later, at Prince Chi's suggestion, Yuchi-Wei led troops into battle to make up for his mistakes. Years later, while I was on a military campaign with Yuchi-Wei, I heard that Prince Chi had rebelled and was suppressed by the Crown Prince. Could it be? I took a deep breath, raised my head, and met the Crown Prince's gaze. Your Highness, there is still one person who hasn't been searched. His Highness Prince Chi isn't here. The servants at the general's residence said that when Chi Feng alarmed the Crown Prince and the others, Prince Chi claimed he was feeling unwell and left early. The crown prince deliberated for a moment, then gave me a final order. Fu Yao, this prince gives you one last chance. If you can't find the military defense map on Prince Qi, you'll accept the punishment yourself and won't escape the blame. Fortunately, Qi Feng and I acted quickly and intercepted Prince Qi's carriage at the alley entrance. Prince Qi lifted the carriage curtain with one hand, revealing those phoenix eyes staring straight at me. Official Fu, why are you dressed like this tonight? I neatly gathered my long hair and still performed a man's salute. Your Highness, an important item was lost tonight at General Yu Qi's residence. The capital military defense map. You suspect this prince? I didn't even dare call it suspicion. I was almost certain. Your Highness, all guests at the banquet have been searched. You shouldn't be an exception, should you? Prince Qi leaned forward, staring at me. All guests have been searched. What about the crown prince? Official Fu, did you search him too? I was speechless. How could he compare himself to the crown prince, Your Highness? I was about to speak, but he interrupted me, lowering the curtain as he spoke. You may search, but I won't get off the carriage. You come up. Prince Qi was of imperial blood, so naturally his carriage was of the finest quality, neither cramped nor confined. I got on the carriage about to conduct a body search, but Prince Qi avoided my hand. Official Fu, you are a woman after all. He looked me over for a moment, then lowered his eyes and gazed at me coldly. Men and women should not touch directly. I'll do it myself. Just like that. Prince Qi turned his head to the side in front of me and personally began undoing his clothes. As a nobleman, his attire was elaborate. Layer upon layer, he removed a full 7 or 8 pieces before stopping, satisfied. My apologies for the offense. The last inner garment, I personally reached out to check. Nothing was hidden. I glanced at Prince Qi and slowly withdrew my hand. The Crown Prince's ultimatum still echoed in my ears. If I couldn't find the capital's military defense map, I too would be held accountable. Prince Qi noticed my disappointed expression and clicked his tongue lightly. Official Fug, do you suspect me this deeply? The carriage curtains were tightly closed, leaving just the two of us. I no longer wanted to keep up pretenses. Your Highness, if you have nothing to hide, why are you in such a hurry to leave? I leaned forward, staring at him. Prince Qi was picking up the clothes beside him, and seeing me suddenly draw close, his movements froze. He froze for a moment, stepped back, his eyes averted. I am not yet married, just here to go through the motions. I never liked watching people get married anyway. Prince Qi's words seemed completely illogical, yet could also be said to be watertight. I stopped paying attention to him and turned to examine the carriage, but found nothing unusual. Lord Fu, stop lingering. Please leave. Prince Qi grew impatient and urged me to leave. I sighed, lifted the carriage curtain, and was about to step down when something suddenly flashed in my peripheral vision. My gaze immediately followed. It was the horse, bored from waiting, swishing its tail. But I vaguely caught a glimpse of something bluish-gray flashing by. I jumped off the carriage, lifted the horse's tail, and found a thin tube of green bamboo hidden inside. Opening it, I found exactly what I had been searching for all along, the military defense map of the capital region. Your Highness Prince Qi, caught red-handed with the evidence. What is your explanation? Prince Qi followed closely behind me, and his face changed dramatically when he saw the scroll. Fu Yao. He suddenly called my name, his voice pausing for a moment. If I said someone framed me, would you believe me? Your Highness Prince Qi, I've heard many people say that. I walked up to him, holding up the scroll. You must have received it from Luo Qian when you were giving gifts to the newlyweds. Fu Yao. Is this how you handle cases, always with such preconceptions? His righteous questioning actually surprised me. I sized him up without missing a detail, and he didn't avoid my gaze in the slightest. A moment later, footsteps sounded from far to near. It was the Crown Prince leading his men over. I glanced back, tucked the blueprint into my robe, then looked at Prince Qi. Fine, I'll give you one chance to see whether you've been framed. I have my own ways to verify the truth and distinguish right from wrong. In the blink of an eye, the Crown Prince was already before us. Lord Fu, have you found anything? I glanced at Prince Qi and chose to lie. Nothing was found. The Crown Prince lightly furrowed his brow and slightly raised his hand. His subordinates immediately conducted a thorough search of Prince Chi's carriage. I watched carefully from the side. Since Prince Chi insisted he was framed, the person who set him up would naturally know the location of the hidden evidence better than anyone. If such a person existed, they couldn't possibly not show up. The Crown Prince's men searched meticulously but efficiently, without lingering. Moreover, the one in charge didn't get on the carriage, but personally inspected the carriage shafts, seemingly casually striking the horse's tail with his sword sheath. He froze for a moment, gripped the scabbard tightly, then switched hands and ran his fingers through it himself. He was stunned for a moment and instinctively glanced to the side. I keenly caught this scene in my previous life. When Prince Chi rebelled, I wasn't in the capital. I only knew that the Crown Prince won. Prince Chi lost and was beheaded for public display, and Yuchi Wei, as a general who had once been on good terms with Prince Chi, was also restless day and night upon hearing this news. Later we returned triumphant with the army. The Crown Prince had already ascended the throne and did not blame Yuchi Wei. Moreover, upon learning I was a woman, he bestowed a marriage upon us, which led to that wedding night where Yuchi Wei tormented me until we perished together. I gazed at the Crown Prince not far away, my fingernails digging into my palms, my knuckles trembling uncontrollably. So the person behind Luo Qian had always been the Crown Prince. If he had long known about the relationship between Yuchi Wei and Luo Qian, then that meant when he bestowed our marriage, he had already planned for us to destroy each other. Yet tonight, His Highness the Crown Prince put on an appearance of being fair and impartial, upholding the law with righteousness. No wonder he had me enter the Yuchi manor, dared to send me to investigate Prince Chi, and issued that ultimatum in advance. It was all so that in my impulsiveness, I would take down Prince Chi for him. Tonight's grand show, from Luo Qian stealing the map and disguising herself as the bride, had probably been aimed at Prince Chi all along. One thing after another, one incident after another, every single person. Even I was nothing more than a convenient pawn. Only at this moment did I truly feel grateful for this rebirth. It finally let me see clearly who had pushed me into that endless abyss. They did not find the capital defense map. The Crown Prince stood still, his brows deeply furrowed, his gaze sweeping between me and Prince Chi before finally fixing firmly on my face. Fu Yao, the military defense map's whereabouts are unknown. You cannot escape heavy responsibility. At this moment, whether by emotion or reason, the Crown Prince had gained the complete upper hand. I had no other choice but to accept my guilt. I have nothing to say. The Crown Prince looked down at me from above, silent for a long while, before slowly speaking. Since that is the case, you are stripped of all your posts and shall await further judgment. Yuchi Wei was imprisoned for assault and injury. His sentencing had to wait until Shunyansi woke up. I went to the prison to visit him. You are actually unharmed and even changed into women's clothes. He raised his eyes to look at me completely unruffled. Yeah, I should really thank you for that, I said carelessly. I am quite satisfied with who I am now. Disguising as a man was just to fit in. It is not like I actually took pride in being one. Yuchi Wei sneered without a word, seeing him sitting listlessly in the cell, his expression dazed. I couldn't help but wonder. You took the blame for her and ended up in prison, nearly implicating Prince Chi, and caused the Shu family to defect to the Eastern Palace. Have you ever considered that she might actually be the Crown Prince's person? You think I'd believe you, believe it or not. Up to you. The Shu family has already petitioned for divorce. Although they can't take your life, you won't be able to serve as an official anymore. Was it worth it? Yuchi Wei gripped the bars, glaring at me with hatred. This time, even if I lose all wealth and glory, I still want to live and die together with Qin Qian. I curved my lips slightly. Luckily, I am kind-hearted and willing to give you this chance. You were supposed to serve 3 years in prison. I pleaded with Shunyansi on your behalf. As long as you and Luo Qian walk along every street in the capital, kneeling every 3 steps and kowtowing every 9 steps, your prison sentence will be waived immediately. Yuichi Wei froze for a moment, his expression gradually turning gloomy. Fu Yao, only you could come up with such a humiliating method. I didn't care about his mockery at all. You flatter me. I'd love to see lovers end up together, and I believe your Qian will accompany you well. 1 day or 3 years, your choice. I said nothing more and left the prison. Prince Qi was waiting for me. That night, I was supposed to be dismissed and detained, but he protected me and took me into the palace to see the emperor. I handed the capital's military defense map to His Majesty and told him everything about that night. The emperor was old but not senile. When the Son of Heaven breaks the law, he is punished the same as commoners, let alone the crown prince. But even for commoners, one cannot be easily punished without solid evidence. He wanted us to produce evidence. Prince Qi and I set out to find evidence. But Yuichi Wei deeply loved Lu Qian. Lu Qian was a seasoned spy, and the crown prince was meticulous. We had to break their alliance from within. After coming out, Prince Qi asked me, "Why didn't Father Emperor mention the matter of you disguising as a man?" I stared at him for a while. His Majesty already knew I was serving as an official while being a woman. The Emperor has sharp ears and keen eyes, knowing people well and using them wisely. If the Crown Prince hadn't ascended the throne in my previous life, I wouldn't have been casually married off. Me, I was supposed to have a bright future ahead, ennobled as a marquis, appointed as a minister, bringing glory to my descendants. Prince Qi had heard my conversation with Yuichi Wei. "Are you really planning to release him?" I nodded, looking back. Keeping him locked up actually protected him. But can a single humiliation really make them turn against each other? Of course not. I'll pick a special day for them. The day I chose was the day the Crown Prince sent betrothal gifts to the Shu family. Speaking of which, it was quite the romantic tale recently. The Crown Prince publicly rescued Shuniansi from the water, and without minding her status as a remarried woman, decided to make her his consort. Of course, with Shuniansi's family background, she shouldn't have been just a consort. I have reason to suspect the Crown Prince had ulterior motives in saving her. Early that morning, Yuichi Wei walked out of the prison cell. Lo Qian thought the matter had passed without incident and eagerly came to take him back. Unexpectedly, Yuichi Wei wanted to drag her to kneel along the street. The matter of Yuichi Wei killing his wife on their wedding night had caused a huge uproar, and now he wanted her to accompany him through the streets, kneeling and kowtowing repeatedly. Never mind everyone's stares and spit. Her knees alone would be ruined from all the kneeling. She hesitated again and again. Yuichi Wei, disregarding his own humiliation, instead came to persuade her. "Once today is over, we'll leave the capital." Lo Qian's face twisted, but she didn't dare refuse, and braced herself to kneel alongside him. When the sun was high in the sky, Prince Qi and I were drinking soy milk at a tea shop when we saw a crowd emerge from the street corner surrounding them, throwing vegetable leaves and filth at them. And the ones being surrounded were none other than Yuichi Wei and Lo Qian. After kneeling for nearly 4 hours, Yuichi Wei could still hold on, but Lu Qian's steps were already faltering, barely able to stand steady. Her dress was filthy beyond measure, and blood was still seeping from her forehead. The spectating commoners deliberately aimed the filth at Lu Qian. Yuichi Wei held her close protectively, but Luo Qian shoved him away forcefully and shot him a resentful glare. "I've had enough. You can kneel here by yourself." Luo Qian suddenly went wild like a madwoman, tearing the eggshells off her head and hurling them at him. "Why should I suffer this for you?" Yuichi Wei was momentarily stunned, grabbing her sleeve. "You know full well I am doing this to protect you. Protect me." Luo Qian paused for a moment, then suddenly sneered. "You were never my backer." Then she turned and walked away. I picked up the soy milk in my hand and splashed it in front of her, forcing her to stop. "Ah, who?" I stood under the eaves of the tea shop, watching her quietly. She didn't dare make a sound. Yuichi Wei caught up and met my gaze. "Fu Yao. She is just being willful. Don't make things difficult for her. Me make things difficult for her." I let out a soft laugh. "Yuichi Wei, if she leaves today, you kneeling alone won't count. So think about it. Do you go back and serve 3 years, or do you personally make things difficult for her?" I stepped aside, clearing the path. Yuchi hesitated for a moment, but Luo Qian ignored him and continued walking forward. Before she could take half a step, he grabbed her wrist. Qian, just bear with it for now. He stared at her, pleading in a low voice. After all, you were the one who did it. Luo Qian stared at him in disbelief. You were willing, she struggled, but couldn't overpower him. Yuchi hardened his heart. To avoid prison, he forcefully pressed down on Luo Qian's shoulders and, in full view of everyone, pushed her down to kneel heavily. Just like that, Luo Qian was personally held down by Yuchi, like a prisoner paraded through the streets, kneeling through every long street in the capital, struggling again and again, being pressed down again and again. Luo Qian had already been driven mad with anger, starting to cry and curse, all kinds of nasty words pouring out. Yuchi went from trying to comfort her at first to only silence later, continuing to drag her forward, until the sun set over the western mountains. The two of them collapsed in a wretched state, kneeling before the gates of the Shu residence. Only then did Luo Qian learn that the crown prince was going to marry Shu Nianxi. At that moment, her expression could finally be called despair. Shu Nianxi didn't show herself, only sending two maidservants out, one holding the divorce papers she had signed, the other presenting brush, ink, and vermilion paste, asking Yuchi to sign. She couldn't even be bothered to look at this man again. Yuchi held the brush, not knowing what he was thinking, lost in thought for a moment before finally putting brush to paper and pressing his seal. I walked up to him. You are free now, my voice calm, each word clear. You got what you wished for. Yuchi looked at me, wordless for a long while, then turned around and walked straight away. Luo Qian was left behind by him on the spot. I walked closer, looking down at her face. I know who your master is, but now he has married Shu Nianxi. I bent down, leaning close to her ear, slowing my words. He wants to win over the Shu family. Tell me, how much longer do you think you can live? Lu Xian's face went pale with panic, struggling to get up to chase after Yuchi. As for me, I entered the Shu residence. Shu Nianxi's injuries had mostly healed, but she didn't have much spirit. My marriage to the crown prince has been set for 3 months from now. This isn't what I wanted, but since things have come to this, I'll just let them have their way. Having suddenly faced such a life and death upheaval, she had momentarily lost her spirit and simply wanted to go with the flow. Miss Shu, before you decide whether to marry or not, I'd like you to meet someone. I clapped my hands. Qifeng brought in that man from that day. Speak. Who bribed you to set the bridal sedan on fire? The man had already been severely tortured and spoke unclearly, so I had Qifeng prepare 3 portraits, of Yuchi, Lu Qian, and the crown prince's close attendant. He stretched out his finger, trembling, and pointed to the last one. That day, Luo Qian disguised herself as the bride to enter the residence. I thought about it for a long time afterward, but couldn't figure out when she would have had the chance to hire someone. I took the portrait from Qifeng's hands, until it occurred to me, you were originally supposed to marry Yuchi, and Yuchi is a great general under Prince Qi. Perhaps the crown prince wasn't pleased to see this marriage happen. Shu Nianxi's body swayed, and she fell back into her chair in a daze, her fingertips accidentally knocking over the teacup on the table. Lord Fu, what do you want me to do? She looked up at me, her gaze fragmented. I'd rather never marry in my entire life than share a bed with a wolf. I held her hand and spoke 4 words, the same trick again. 3 months later, the Shu family set out with an even more luxurious bridal sedan, following the same route as before, and stopped again at the matchmaker god's temple. 2 maidservants helped the bride inside. Prince Qi was waiting inside. Yuchi lost his official position and found work taming horses in the outskirts of the capital. Luo Qian is still scraping by with him. The crown prince tried to have her killed to silence her several times, but I sent people to stop him each time. Do you really think she'll risk coming today? I came before the statue of the matchmaker god, lifted off my red bridal veil, and began removing the elaborate hairpins and ornaments. She'll come. Ordinary people probably wouldn't take this risk, but she succeeded last time, so she has grown bolder. Besides, she must have dirt on the crown prince. The matchmaker god's temple was empty, without even a table or chair. I had nowhere to put the hairpins I'd removed and was looking around. Just then, Prince Chi walked over and held out his palm. "Give them to me." His movements were completely natural, a gentle curve forming at the corner of his lips. I was stunned for a moment, placed them in his palm, then turned around. "I remember Wei was originally recommended to the court by your highness. Why didn't you protect him?" I clearly remembered that in my previous life, when Wei got caught up in trouble, Prince Chi had spoken up for him and sent both him and me off to the frontier together. In this life, however, he showed no favor toward Wei. Prince Chi withdrew his hand, his tone completely indifferent. "I've recommended many people, and they're not all my followers. As for him, he got what he asked for." His voice suddenly stopped, his tone shifting slightly. "What? You still want me to help him out?" I frowned slightly. Why would I help him? He was silent for a long moment, turned around, his back facing me. "I thought you liked him." I was momentarily stunned, and just as I was about to speak, there was a noise from the vent behind the matchmaker's statue. We were both startled. After a moment, I finally realized it was Luo Qian who had arrived. She barged in with her sword. "Why is it you? I've been waiting here specifically for you." "You are that kind-hearted? You have something I want." I stared at her intently. "But I also know you'll never give it to me. So I want to make a bet with you, with what I want as the stakes." Lo Xian was skeptical. "What do you want to bet on? You dare to take risks because you think you have leverage over the crown prince, so he'll willingly go along with the mistake and marry you. I bet he won't." I spoke each word clearly. "Not only won't he, he'll also kill you. When that time comes, you give me the evidence, and that can count as me avenging you." "He won't." Luo Qian's eyes reddened, her tone insistent. "He also said that after everything was done, he would marry me." She paused for a moment, lowering her eyes gently. "It is my fault for being useless, for failing to accomplish the big task." The crown prince had truly deceived her miserably. "Since that is the case, you should bet with me even more, shouldn't you?" I swapped clothes with Lu Chen. Gongs and drums thundered. A grand red bridal procession stretched for miles. The wedding escort set off. Prince Chi and I rode horses at the back. If she enters the Eastern Palace, she'll probably die immediately. How would you go find her to get evidence? I looked straight ahead. She won't make it there. Outside the palace gates, the crown prince led his people waiting to receive the bride. As dusk closed in from all sides, they finally saw the bridal sedan. Just as he was about to ride forward to meet them, an uninvited guest barged in midway. "Lo Chen!" That loud shout made the crown prince rein in his horse. It was Wei who came. Prince Chi was extremely surprised. How did he know Lo Qian was here? I nodded. I asked him to come. Wei blocked the bridal sedan, rushed over, and dragged the person out. Lifted the red veil without a word, and upon seeing it was indeed Lu Qian, became furious beyond measure. "It really is you. I lost so much for you. Do you even have a heart, getting into someone else's bridal sedan? That was your own willingness. It has nothing to do with me." Lu Qian shoved him away hard, looked toward the crown prince dressed in red in the distance, straightened her dress, and ran toward him without a care. The crown prince watched this scene expressionlessly. He slightly narrowed his eyes, picked up the bow and arrow tied with red silk, and drew the bow fully without a word. When Lo Qian could see clearly, she barely stopped in her tracks, opening her mouth. The first arrow pierced through her shoulder. The second arrow hit her squarely in the lower abdomen. The third arrow struck her in the chest. Lo Qian, with a look of disbelief, slowly fell backward onto the ground. Wei froze completely. Just then, I shot an arrow from the shadows, hitting the crown prince's mount, causing him to fall off. I immediately rushed to Lu Shan's side. "I won. Where is the wager?" She was still on her last breath, eyes brimming with tears, unable to utter a single word, only using her final breath to raise her hand and touch her hair bun. I found the evidence in her hair, secret letters between her and the crown prince. Not only in the crown prince's own handwriting, but also bearing his private seal. The evidence was irrefutable. Prince Chi quickly led his soldiers to surround the crown prince. with witnesses and evidence both present. The crown prince didn't struggle much, instead accepting his loss gracefully. Fu Yao, you served under me for so many years, yet I never discovered you were Prince Qi's person. He thought he lost because I had been loyal to Prince Qi from the very beginning. Your Highness, I don't belong to anyone. I disagreed, letting out a soft sigh. I am just a player in this game who refuses to be used. Lucian died in the desolate wilderness. The crown prince was convicted and exiled 3,000 li. This case implicated many people, and Yuichi Wei naturally couldn't escape either. His actions made him an accomplice, so both his legs were broken, and he was expelled from the capital. Forbidden to return for the rest of his life, when he was thrown outside the capital, he still asked someone to request to see me. I heard from the messenger that he seemed crazed at the time, repeatedly saying things like, "I understand now," and she was also reborn. I didn't go see him. As for what I was busy with, all of the crown prince's private property was confiscated, including a 3-courtyard residence with quite unique scenery that left an unforgettable impression. I couldn't help but praise it in front of Prince Qi, and he asked His Majesty for a decree to gift this residence to me as my official mansion. I was sweeping and dusting, preparing to host guests. A sudden downpour came today. Looking at the lush green banana leaves beneath the corridor, I couldn't help but lose myself in thought. Everything before my eyes was so full of life. Heaven has been kind to me. I, Fu Yao, have only this life. Everything from before was nothing but an old dream. Prince Qi came to my door braving this heavy rain. After half a month, he came specially to return something to me. It was the hairpins and earrings he had personally kept safe for me that day at the matchmaker temple. We haven't finished our conversation from that day. I thought back for a moment before realizing what he meant. I don't like Yuichi Wei. Prince Qi lowered his eyes upon hearing this, softly letting out an "oh." He paused for quite a while, pulling off the leaves of a potted flower, and suddenly asked, "Then what kind of person do you like?" I picked up my unlucky flower lest it be completely plucked by someone, turned around, and stepped into the room. I like being infaufed as a marquis and appointed as prime minister, with a boundless future.